It's another beautiful day and a warm welcome to another episode of Today's Parent, where we connect you with experts and provide you with information to make your parenting journey a bit more easier. I'm your host, Christine Casina. In today's episode, we are going to talk about dysfunctional families. This is going to give us an opportunity to learn what it means to have a dysfunctional family, and if there's anything we need to unlearn, our expert in studio today will help us unlearn so we can do better. We have Pauline Gekanga, who is a family therapist, who will take us through dysfunctional families and how we can do better. Pauline.
Yes.
Really lovely to have you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Lovely to be back.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
What does it mean to have a dysfunctional family?
A dysfunctional family. Dysfunctional families are families where, first of all, paramount, the conflict is the everyday thing. And with conflict being the major thing why we characterize the family as dysfunctional, the family continues with conflict and it becomes a normal thing.
Right.
Yes.
So number one, a dysfunctional family, there's conflict almost throughout in the home.
Yes.
And this becomes a norm and it becomes acceptable to everybody that this is our norm.
This is
which
our
it
norm.
shouldn't be.
Yes, which shouldn't be. Of course, other characteristics inside the dysfunctional families would be abuse. You know, a lot of abuse. We know abuse will definitely come out of conflict, and so there's emotional abuse, there's even sexual abuse. There's a lot of, maybe people start becoming very, you know, substance abuse, start taking alcohol, you know, some start taking even, you know, hard drugs when they're in such kind of families.
Pauline, going back to abuse, you've mentioned emotional abuse.
Yes.
You know, we normally talk about abuse, and a lot of people, when it comes to abuse, they understand the physical part of it. But then how do you identify if you're being emotionally abused?
Emotionally abused, when there's, you know, when communication is only one way. You know, communication should be two-way. You communicate to me, I'm able to talk back to you. But when there's emotional abuse, there's this dominant partner, for example, if it's the man or the wife, always speaks. It's like they don't talk with their partner, they talk to the partner all the time. And so they're not allowed to also share what they feel. And now that becomes emotional abuse because they keep being told, you know, nasty things, but they can't talk back. And that is even harder because it's something you can't measure. It's within them. But, you know, physical is outward, but this emotional has an even deeper effect to the person receiving it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it could be also towards the children. You know, every time the children are being rebuked, are being, you know, conflicted with words and told, you know, things you're good for nothing. So the children also get affected through emotional abuse in that way. Yeah.
Okay. So that's emotional abuse. You then mentioned about drug abuse.
Yes. Alcohol abuse, you know, it's taken, you know, left, right, center. They cannot, some people get to a point where they become even alcoholics, so they can't actually do without it. And when it's overly abused, then it becomes, it has an effect to the family, and then the family gets to be dysfunctional. Because it means somebody cannot operate on a normal, they have to be under influence of something. And of course, when you're under influence of something, you whatever you bring home is, of course, not the right things. Yeah.
Then I think it will be important for us to define what is a normal family setting. What's a normal family setting?
A non-dysfunctional
Yes, because, you know, there could be
yeah.
somebody out there who comes home every Thursday and Friday, they are drunk, and then, for example, they're drunk, and then the kids are in bed, but then they come through the sitting room, their food is warmed, they eat, they go to bed, the children have not seen them in that state.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe the wife, in her opinion, this is something that should not be a new normal or a normal in the home. How then do you differentiate that whatever is happening in this home, this is okay and this is not okay? Going back to what is normal in a normal family.
In a normal family. We all know a family is the basic unit of society. So a family is the place where members of that family or livelihood get a sense of belonging.
A sense of belonging.
Yeah, there's a sense of belonging in a family, in a functional family. It's a place of love. You know, a place of love means it's not a place of heart. So it's a place where somebody wants to run to when they want. It's again a place of safety. You know, a home is a place of safety. When somebody comes home under influence of, for example, alcohol, you've had children who run to the bedroom. So it means there's no safety for them. I don't want to be up when my dad is coming.
Yeah.
Or even it could be their mother. I mean, I don't want to see my mom in that state. So there's no safety for them. They do not feel safe around even their own parents. So a functional home is a place where there's a sense of belonging.
Right.
There's a sense of love. You feel there's love around.
Okay.
And safety, yeah.
You know, I'll stop you there. When you talk about, we throw the word around, love.
Love.
Love, love, love. In the context of family, what is love? How does a parent express love to a child?
Love. Love is a feeling. And again, it's also a doing thing. You know, we do love. Whatever would be done to you and you feel accepted.
Right.
Yes, is what love is. I mean, I keep saying it's a doing word. Of course, love is a feeling, but it's also a doing.
It's a verb.
Yeah, it's a verb. It's what we do that makes us feel like, I mean, we all, even small children, will know, will even pick when they are small children who cannot even talk, when someone holds them and they feel, we can sense
yes, they can
when
pick
there's
that energy
love.
or
They
vibe.
can pick it.
They
Yeah,
can.
the positiveness.
They can.
So, yeah, so the love is what we do to others for them to feel accepted.
All right.
Yeah.
How about, you know, sexual deviant behaviors in the home? Can they be a characteristic of a dysfunctional family?
Absolutely, yeah. So you find that we find that there are spouses also who have, I mean, issues of dysfunctionality when it comes to sex, where there's sexual abuse. You know, we've had spouses who say that I was raped. You know, I'm not, it should be, you know, we know sex should be something we like to do. It's something that spouses need to do. It's a conjugal right for both of them. But now when it comes when it's not something that has been functioned, it's not something that they have agreed on,
right,
then a spouse feels raped. That is an abuse. That's sexual abuse. We've had also families who live together, and they are maybe, especially in the African context, we've seen families where relatives live within the home, and maybe there are young children who live in there, and then you hear, we've had cases of uncles, you know, even of fathers abusing their own children.
Yeah.
So there's also, that's a cause of dysfunctionality in
right,
homes, yes.
Okay. There could be a parent watching right now wondering, am I a dysfunctional parent? Is what I'm doing normal, or is it not? What are the behaviors that a parent could be doing that then contributes to a family being dysfunctional?
Being dysfunctional.
We've talked about alcoholism. What other pointers can you share?
Yeah, when parents are not present in a home, you know, like all the time they're out there, and probably they have people who help at home, like maybe a house help, a house manager or somebody. It means that the children are not growing up with the people they are primary caregivers. I mean, parents are the primary caregivers of their own children. And so when they are not playing that role, that is dysfunctional. That's not a functional home, because
right,
it's an outer person who is bringing up that family. Of course, parents who are always always having, you know, everything they do is bashing their children. Most of the time, you'll find parents bashing their children because they are feeling like they have no, it's like covering up. So you want to be good, but because you've lost so much time, you find all they are doing with their children is they can't have, you know, good vibes with their children.
Okay.
So they are angry from within, and you can only give what you have. And so that's dysfunctional.
So they talk down to the child.
Exactly.
How do you differentiate as a parent when you are talking down to your child and disciplining your child?
Discipline. Now, I always say, most of the time we think we are disciplining, but we call it beating. I don't know whether you have had parents say, I really beat my child. You know, I was beating them. You guys come here, I'll beat you. Now, we need to differentiate. Discipline is not the same as beating. You know, we discipline a child when we have explained to them why you're doing it. And we keep telling parents, you don't discipline with the first wrong. You know, if for example, a child does something wrong and you had not warned them about it or even taught them about it. For example, you find a child putting their hands through a socket.
Yes.
and then you get the child up. That is wrong, because you haven't made the child know
Understand why that is
wrong.
dangerous.
Why is that
Right,
dangerous?
right.
And so when they probably repeat the second or third time, is when you can now explain to the child, I need to discipline you, because so that you will remember. You see, the discipline needs to be connected to the wrong, so that you're disciplining that wrong.
Okay.
But most of the time we beat. Why we say beating is, for example, when it's done with anger.
Okay.
Discipline is not done with anger.
Okay.
And of course, when a child does wrong, we always tell a parent they should retreat. When you walk to the kitchen to get that moiko, you've already cooled down. So you will not discipline with anger. You'll be able to sit down, I need to discipline you for this and this. But most of the time, parents jump on their children.
Okay.
You want to use your hands. And we know that our hands are for loving our children, but the rod or whatever else is what we use for disciplining. So when that happens, then dysfunctionality starts coming up in the home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our parenting styles, I'm sure, has an effect in then leading to a family being dysfunctional. Would you say that being an overprotective parent, a helicopter parent, could be one of the factors that lead to a family being dysfunctional?
Yes, of course. Again, too much of everything is poisonous. I mean, when we are overly protective, we need to realize that our children are human beings just like ourselves. Everybody has, they need to grow as we grew, and they need to be allowed to express themselves,
okay,
but not overly micromanaging them. At times we micromanage our children. We want them to be like us, or at times we want them to be what we didn't become. And so we are overly protective of but not letting them to fly as they need to.
All right. Okay. So like you mentioned, the bitterness that we have as parents could then affect how we parent our children as well, right?
Yes. And at times the bitterness, Christine, comes from, how we grew up. We get people coming to our counseling offices talking about, when we talk about their upbringing, some are still very bitter about their parents. Like, why would they do that? Why did they do that to us? I didn't like what they did. They favored my sibling.
Also, favoritism is another one.
Favoritism is another one. You see, it's almost an obvious thing where parents will have more children, but they'll tend to be inclined more to probably a more talented child, or maybe a child, and especially in Africa, is the more, academically gifted child.
The bright child.
Yeah, the bright child. But then what happens is the effect on these other children is not good, because they'll feel they were not really liked, they were not affirmed. And so when they grow up and have their own families, they will tend to bring out that anger to their unknowingly. But then again, a parent can unlearn that.
Right.
Can decide, I did not like that. I didn't like how my parents favored my siblings, so I don't want to do the same to my. But then again, it's a very deliberate effort to unlearn, because most of the time we can only give what we got.
Yeah.
So in our subconscious, or as a default, I'll probably do what I saw my
as I was growing up.
Yeah, and then
this is how I was raised.
This is how I was raised. So yes, favoritism is not good, and the anger within us experience will get to our children knowingly and unknowingly. Yeah.
Okay. So we've defined what a dysfunctional family is,
yes,
and how our parenting style then also affects creating that dysfunctional environment in the family. We're going to take a short break right now, Pauline, and then when we come back, you're then going to share the effects of a dysfunctional family on the children and on the parents as well.
Okay.
We'll be right back. In today's episode, we are talking about dysfunctional families. We have family therapist Pauline Gekanga, who's sharing insights of what it is to have a dysfunctional family. And it's important today to pick out what we can unlearn if this is something that is happening in our homes. We are going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to today's episode of Today's Parent, where we are talking about dysfunctional families. In studio today, we have Pauline Gekanga, who's a family therapist, sharing insights of what to look out for to then decide if your family, probably there's something that is off, that should not be your normal. if there's conflict all the time, there's strife all the time in your family, Pauline is sharing pointers on how we can move away from having a dysfunctional family. Pauline,
Yes.
we are back from the break. Give us an understanding of what are the effects of a dysfunctional family on a child first, even before we get to a young adult. What
Yes.
are the effects of a dysfunctional family to a child?
Now, a child who grows up in a dysfunctional home, you know, seeing all the negativity in the family, first of all, grows up as an anxious person. You know, they're always anxious, like, what
Right.
next? What will happen? They're not settled. Others grow up, another effect is they grow up with mistrust.
Before you go to mistrust, what does the anxiety do to the child?
The anxiety causes a lot of instability in the child. So the child will be at school, you know, they're not stable.
So emotionally unstable.
Emotionally unstable or
yeah.
unstable.
Yeah.
They are not able to, others have issues concentrating at school because they don't know what next in the evening. You know, I've gone home, everything is fine. Will my parents fight again in the evening? You know, will my dad come making all the noise? Will my mom come from work? So they are anxious. They don't want evening to come. So a lot of emotional instability goes within the child.
Okay.
Yes. Another thing is, another effect, negative effect on a child in a dysfunctional home is mistrust. You know, the child does not know who to trust because they don't see, like, whatever they say is taken up by anybody.
Nobody is listening.
Nobody is listening. They may not even, he may even have something they want to tell. Maybe something happened to them in school, for example, or even something happened with them with the nanny at home. But they don't know, who am I going to tell? My parents are not there, they don't come home, or they come home but I don't have time with them. So a child grows up having a lot of mistrust in them. They don't know who to trust, they don't know where is safe for them. And so much goes around them when it comes to trust issues.
Okay.
Yes.
So then they grow up having trust issues.
They grow up having trust issues. They don't know who to trust. At times they over-trust again because they're looking for someone. Being a child, you always want somebody to look for. So you're not sure whether is this the right person that I should be sharing with.
Yeah.
And so they share with them. So a lot of negative effects that comes up from this parent. Again, a loss of belonging. The child does not have a place they can say, this is where I belong. They just grow there. They bring themselves up. Let's say they parent themselves. Because, they parent themselves because we said again, we said earlier, one of the things about dysfunctionality is the absence of also the parents. Because you see, the parents also want to be more away because each of the parents also doesn't want to
be
come
that
home.
home setting.
Exactly. So it's a whole circle of, so the parent, the child comes and doesn't know where they belong. And then you found children who say that they plan everything for themselves. You have seen children going to school without even a snack. And so they go to school and start, you know, stealing other children's snacks. But nobody took care of them. Nobody knew our children need this and this. And so that child brings themselves up, which is a negative effect.
Pauline, we've touched on the effect of a dysfunctional family on young children. How about young adults? How does it affect them?
Young adults on dysfunctional, like I mentioned, like those in, you know, those in high school and then those going to campus, those in campus, they'll look for sense of belonging in their peers. And if you look at most children in campus, there's a lot of peer pressure in campus.
Yeah.
And most of them want to look for what they did not get at home. You know, the sense of belonging, the security, that love. And that's why you'll see even in campus, there are many dating couples. And in the first year, you find that some are living like husband and wife. They just want people who appreciate them. Unfortunately, it's not it's a lot of infatuation going around there. It's not people who are committed. But then most of them who are in dysfunctional fall prey of such relationships.
Yeah, because they're looking for love.
Because they are looking for love. But then in the process, because these are not really mature people who want to set up a family, they end up getting hurt.
Right.
Yes. So as in the aim of looking for security, for love, you know, those basic needs of every human needs.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What about rebellion?
Rebellion, yes. Rebellion, again, just like the young people who will do wrong so that their parents can, they will also not going to, you'll find them not going to class. You know, in campus life, they're not going to class. They want to do the things that probably they were scolded for. They'll
Yeah.
say, now I'm free.
Freedom
I mean,
has
I have
come.
nobody who is looking at me. And you'll find parents, there are parents who are not able even to continue finding out whether do they really go to. And when they are almost graduating 4 years later, they realize that their children actually never went to school. I mean, you've heard of young adults who have gone abroad and they never went to anybody's class.
That's true.
But the parents kept sending school fees for some reason, because of being an absent parent. Because imagine your child has been in school, a whole year has gone, you've not found out. Have they been? So they say nobody really cares.
But Pauline, will that be truancy or will that be something that you connect back to the family because this child is away from me? Okay, I get your point where I needed to have given them a foundation where I prepare them for the world.
Yes.
But then they are growing up and they're going through things and then they make the decision to become a truant.
Yes.
But then, I don't know, I'm just trying to cut parents some slack, but
no, I get you. You see, every individual has something within them to make right decisions and wrong decisions. Yeah. Now, again, there are children or even young adults who are able to decide, this is my life. I need to do things right. Yeah. Whether my parents are watching, whether they were good to me or not good to me. And those ones will go ahead. Yeah. But now we have another lot who are like, you know what, nobody cared. They were not there anyway. Maybe even some are from very well-off families. So, I mean, they're going to pay, let them use their wealth. Let me teach them a lesson. And that's why you've seen even children who say, this degree is for my parents. I'll do them and then get them back
because this is what they want.
And then I'll give them. So to take care of that lot, which can be bigger, that's why the need for children growing up in functional homes. But now, unfortunately, those ones now are young adults getting into adults. Yeah. Yes.
Pauline, as we're having this discussion, there's a question that has come in from Wendy. And Wendy, her question is, I feel that I've grown up in a dysfunctional family. I struggle to put boundaries. How do I put boundaries and how do I just get better moving forward? But starting with, how do I protect myself in this environment? How do I protect myself?
For an adult who has grown up in a dysfunctional family and, grows up and realizes, even if it's a young adult or an adult, and just realizes, I really don't like this. I don't like what we go through, how my family does things. It's important for that person to create boundaries for themselves. Yeah. Now, boundaries distinguish somebody individually. We all have our likes and dislikes. Yeah. There are those things that I don't like. And so it's good for someone first to be aware of what is it that I don't like. What is it that, how else would I want it
as
to
an
be
individual.
Like? As an individual. And so what happens is that a young adult or adult is able to say that for particular things. For example, maybe a parent coming home and they're drunk and, say it's all sorts of things for dinner. They could probably say that I would rather have a breakfast with you, parents, than have dinner. I feel like it's doing more harm to me than good. A parent might decide that, a young adult may decide that when you decide to come and visit, I would rather that you let me know before you come. I need to be prepared. Yeah. Because maybe having the parents around was causing a lot of anxiety. Yeah. Remember I said one of the things that a child gets is a lot of anxiety. Yes. So an adult or a young adult would decide, I want to set boundaries. Of course, it's hard when you tell your parents, for example, I don't want this. I would really appreciate if I'm respected in this and this and this. But then that is the only way somebody is able to get out of the things that they do not like in the dysfunctional home. Okay. Yeah.
Do you think, Pauline, when it comes to setting boundaries, that one of the things that you would recommend, I know there are people who opt for it, that then you cut out members of your family that they bring that kind of energy to you. Or you then decide you're never going home, or when you go home, it's, your family function, your wedding, your burial, and that's it. Yes. You show up and get out. What would you what would you recommend? Can somebody cut off family members for their own well-being, or do you need to work on that relationship no matter what?
So now that is where now the boundaries come in. At times we may not totally cut ourselves off from our family, and especially being a nuclear family,
Right.
because you will need them in one way or another. So what you do is for you to know, when can I go, when should I not go. I mean, it's not in every function, for example, you need to go. It's not for everything that you need to confirm with them. Can I do this? You know, many times we become, being in a dysfunctional families, at times you can also become overly dependent. So you may decide, I'll not keep asking, should I do this, should I do this? Now I have a mind of my own. I'll be doing what I think is right to do, but not necessarily asking from my family, which I feel has not been functional enough for me. So cutting off, unless it is, for example, a relative who probably is within the family itself, you'd maybe say, no, I don't want this relationship. That is fine. But from the nuclear family or the basic, you know, your father, mother, siblings, you may not entirely cut off, but you will put in your boundaries in how far do I relate with them. Right. And of course, going out for help. There's always counseling to help us. It's always case by case, Christine, to be able to be helped, to be able to grow up and come out from whatever effects the dysfunctional home brought to them.
Thank you, Pauline.
Okay.
It was a pleasure having you.
It's a pleasure.
And with that, we come to the end of today's episode of Today's Parent, where we talked about dysfunctional families. If there's anything you've watched today and learned and you'd want to unlearn, this is a good time, because children thrive in an environment where there is love, they're accepted, and for whatever they are, that they know beyond anything, mom and dad will always be there for them. So let's create that environment where our children will thrive. I have been your host, Christine Kasina, and we had in studio Pauline Gekanga. If you want us to connect you to Pauline, send us an SMS and we'll find a way to connect you to Pauline. We've been here in studio at Little Cribs, the home of exciting kids furniture that are also durable and affordable. We thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to having you next time. Thank you for watching.